What is up, crypto gang? It is Crux here with Crux of Crypto, and I'm out of the office. I'm over here in Dallas, Texas. I'll be here for a wedding, so I'll also be going to the Longhorns game here in Austin in a couple days. So I'm out here supporting the team, supporting the fam, and of course, crypto is going crazy as I leave the town. There used to be this running joke every time I would leave. I felt like the markets would dump, and that's definitely a natural feeling in crypto. Is you are the center of it all. As soon as you buy, everything goes down. Vice versa. Whenever you sell, it all starts pumping. So reverse psychology, that's something I talked about in one of my recent videos, is crypto, you do the opposite of your emotions, but gold, you always do whatever your emotions are telling you to do. So it's very interesting how all of these different asset classes, there's ways to make money, and if you have control of your emotions and understand exactly what to do, you can make some money. So if this is your first time here, I'm a fundamental analyst. I cover a lot more news than you're going to see charts. Today's a little bit special. This entire week, I've been focusing on the 4-year cycle. And I'll get more into that here shortly because I think that's going to be the crux of it all. Like, what happens when we're at the point of, fear? Nobody wants to lose their bag. That's very understandable. Every 4 years, we have this scary moment. And is this time different? Some people are telling us yes, other people are telling you no. But today's episode is all about the 4-year cycle. So I can already see a couple people in here, Brandon, MP, 2 fellow Texans supporting the channel. I appreciate you guys. Always love being the first Texas brother represent, says Brandon. And MP says, darn, I just finished my shift at Whataburger, so I can buy this dip. Hey, I might have to swing through, get a honey butter chicken biscuit because those things are off the chain. And if you haven't had Whataburger yet, you need to get down to Texas. It is good. So I think it's a lot better than In-N-Out, but you guys let me know. Is Whataburger better than In-N-Out? All right, I see a couple other OGs. What up, VA Tech? And then we got Dreadnought. Good afternoon, sir. And then Dallas area and neighboring towns need to meet up. Who knows? We might be able to meet up sooner than later. And Tim, Shrum, Smay, and Rufio might all be here. So I'll talk to them and see if we can maybe do a meetup or something. If not, it's okay. Just understand we will find times to meet with you guys. The Bitcoin conference was great. I met a lot of you guys for the first time, which was pretty cool. And understanding that this is way bigger than just crypto content. We are creating a family here. We are creating a movement, and we're creating the next leg of the monetary system. So again, smash that like, hit subscribe, and let's go ahead and jump into what the current state of the markets are. And it is, let me refresh this first, because it is looking a little rough. 3.66. Oh yeah, I'm gonna refresh that again. There's too many sixes right there. We do not want that. All right, 3665. Okay, never mind. It went back. All right, we'll go to the next screen because I'm not playing that game today. Let's see what is trending. Honestly, most of these projects are going to get smoked today as long as Bitcoin is down and right. All these projects are going to be down and right. So don't expect, like, for example, you see, there we go, the light might be a little better there. You see Aster, you see Akash, you see some good names, Solana, Virtual, Sui. These are all trending cryptocurrencies and they're down. Don't expect the news to be relevant to that project. This is going to be a momentum type downwards price action, right? If Bitcoin gets smoked, everything else is getting smoked, and that's crypto 101. That is the holy grail of rules in crypto. Everything follows Bitcoin as it is the king. So interest rate dropped 25 basis points yesterday, and for its second drop since the first one in September. So why are we seeing everything tumble in terms of risk on assets? Well, if you actually look, gold typically does well for the next 12 months after the first rate cut. So something that I covered in one of my recent videos is I expect gold into Q2 of next year to continuing doing well. So how do we get to Q2 without the markets collapsing on top of itself in accordance with the 4-year cycle? My response was money market funds. These ones are a lot more liquid and they're faster to the punch. But Crux, is that even fast enough to be able to keep us from caving in? Because it is time right now, to the day, and I'll talk about that in a second. When are we supposed to peak? And then how long? How long is the bear market? What's the type of feeling that it going through a bear market has on you? Because it's very tough mentally, and if it is your first cycle, this is going to be very scary. I'll tell you that because. Excuse me, last bull market, it was rough. It was rough on a lot of us, but understand what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And crypto is the final testament of that saying. And there's going to be people that get smoked and they leave crypto forever and they don't understand that their risk management is their job. So what I've done this entire week was focusing on the 4-year cycle in particular, because this is, again, the holy grail of crypto. Everything revolves around the 4-year cycle. And I think it's very important to educate you guys to allow you guys to make the final decision on what you plan on doing. And I released what I plan on doing, which is accumulating dry powder into Q4 of next year, not selling anything, and continuing to educate the masses on crypto. So I'm not going anywhere, no matter what the price action looks like. I'm a firm believer of crypto. I don't need these gems or like these hot altcoins to start pumping. I'm here because I believe in it. So you got to understand, if you're here to invest, it's probably better to take some profits and be ready for Q4 next year, because there's a very real opportunity, or there's a very real probability that Bitcoin is $40,000 by this time next year. In 365 days, there's a pretty solid probability Bitcoin is 40K. And then over here, Bitcoin could be $180,000 in the next 365 days. So if you're not ready for either of these opportunities, right now is the moment to do so. So very much pay attention to the video I dropped on Monday. That's going to be the overall scope of the 4-year cycle. The one on Wednesday was the bullish thesis, getting up to that 180K, all the way up to a $500,000 Bitcoin, because I talk about that by 2029. And then I was going to drop a video tomorrow, but due to Tim not doing the live stream, and then also a Monday push is typically better because YouTube usually pushes stuff out for about 48 hours, and I don't want to push it out into a weekend where not many people are watching. So I'm pushing my bearish sentiment video out to Monday. And I think overall as a community, we'll benefit much more from that video. But yeah, so let's go ahead and jump into a bit of the news. We'll do some Q&A after the news, and then we'll jump back into the 4-year cycle breakdown and where I think we'll be at 365 days from today. All right, so this is a bullish story. We got Robinhood, who's been listing everything as of late. They listed Aster, they listed BNB. They are listing some hot projects over there, which is pretty cool because Robinhood is, at this point, probably one of the biggest brokerages in the United States. So it's nice to be able to see people get an easy on-ramp onto crypto. People ask me all the time, I don't own any Bitcoin, I don't own any digital assets. How do I get access to these assets? I mean, personally, this is what I push them to. If you would have asked me 4 years ago, Crux, where are you going to send them? I would say a Coinbase or something like that. And then I would say get your crypto off of the exchanges. But I think most people that are understanding of the space and very smart people already understand what crypto is. So the people that are starting to come in at this point are not going to be the visionaries. They're going to be the moms, the dads, the grandparents, those type of people who aren't going to be as, I'm not going to say intelligent, but just as welcoming to stuff that has a lot of risks to it. So I think Robinhood is a great opportunity for people to get access to crypto. And Say is a solid project. I did a breakdown of Sui versus Say. I'm not going to give it's actually my number one performing video. I think getting close to 6,000 views on this channel, which for a size of my channel, that is absolutely crazy. So I like the verse videos. I compare two projects that are typically similar, and Say is doing very well in terms of having that parallelization, layer one blockchain, bringing speed to the table, and they are a market maker on the actual base network. So it's pretty cool. They're pretty sure they're a first mover advantage in that aspect. So you don't go to Say to mint meme coins. They do have some meme coins like Sayin and other ones. I would stay away from those. You go to Say for market making and trading. So I like to see it. Congrats to that community over there. And then we'll jump into, I think it's just about 2 more stories, and then we'll jump into the quick Q&A and then the 4-year cycle. Next up, we have Google Cloud and Keeta. So both of these are going to be 2 Keeta articles. Google Cloud, you guys know, for my Keeta community. If you have some Keeta in chat, press 1. This right here is a medium cap at this point. It's sitting, I think, around 200 mil market cap, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a project I actually done a good amount of research in, and I personally believe it. So I like to see what they're doing. Google Cloud, they just tweeted about them. So very big partnership over there. And also, which, I mean, this isn't the first time Google Cloud's shared this article, by the way, but this is the first time that they're mentioning Delphi Digital, who just published a report on Keeta Network. And this is pretty big. We're finally starting to see Keeta with its partnerships and starting to get some credibility out there. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. You have to give these projects a good amount of time for them to be able to prove themselves. And especially if you're a peer-to-peer network, something similar to an XRP, and you got to partner with banks, go through the regulatory scrutiny. Keeta, it has some of my bag, and I'll be honest, I think I have maybe around 1% of my portfolio, which, again, it's pretty fun playing in altcoins, but always remember, Bitcoin is king. Your large caps should have the bulk of your portfolio, and anybody that's telling you different, be very wary of where they're trying to lead you, because if we go into a bear market, 99% of these altcoins will not recover. So there's no just indefinitely, I'm going to hold this project and I'm going to eventually make my money back. You have to be able to check and determine what the real projects are if you want your bags to eventually give you some sort of ROI. So Keeta, I think Keeta is worth having a good amount of exposure to, but don't put a lot of your portfolio in these. All right. Next up. So I'll go ahead and say this, and then I'll lead into the Q&A. So the next few months will be filled. So the next few months will be filled with I told you so's. Brace yourself. The fact that you're here in crypto and you made it this far, you should be proud. We are building the next rails of finance. Do not quit. That's super important. Understand you are not here solely just to make money. I mean, some of you may be, but I don't see myself as that piece. I see myself as a mouthpiece on changing the world and the monetary system. And it's bigger than Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin is a clear winner. It's nice to own some Bitcoin. If I look at from an investment perspective, Bitcoin was the clear winner this cycle, but that doesn't mean, you know, Keeta doesn't have its piece in the pie. Tether did a phenomenal this bull market. So did Circle. We've had a lot of advancements on the regulatory side, and stablecoins are winning, point blank period. We're starting to see real world assets get tokenized. And again, on the regulatory front, this cycle is second to none in terms of the advancements made. Excuse me. And then on the institutional side, we've seen about a 2x from the November 2021 peak in terms of how much the institutions own relative to everyone else. So the institutions, they did pretty good. Regulations did very well. And I think that we've set ourselves up for maybe going through one last bear market. And if we do go through another bear market, I definitely see us recovering and going up and right from there. And, I highly doubt we're going to take longer than a year to go through that. And I'll break that down here after I answer some of y'all's questions. First up, who do we have? We got, hey, Crux says, Leslie. What up, Leslie? MP, I will go after your show, In and Out, for the extra shift. The MP is working out Whataburger and In-N-Out Burger to buy some crypto. So if he's pulling double shifts, you guys should be too. Also remember, if you're in accumulation phase, which you should be, you don't want to be in accumulation phase like whenever the prices are all the way down. When the prices are up, you want to be in accumulation phase, and you need to start, hoarding that bag. You don't have to buy any crypto right now. Just hold it. There's a very real probability we are at 40K in 365 days, and you need to be able to have that bulk to be able to buy. So you don't even have to DCA. Every month you could buy a little bit of crypto. That's cool. I'm not going to tell you not to do it, but what I've done very well in the previous bear market, where I bought 90% of my crypto sub $25,000, was because I bulk bought. I wasn't buying at all through the last bear market. So right now you should be in accumulation phase, every dollar that you make, think of it as $10. So if you're pulling those double shifts and you're working 60 hours a week, you're going to be able to get those rewards. Just manifest it. Just keep believing in this thing and you will do fine. We see Amazon double beat, need MSTR to do the same. Yeah, some of these stocks are pretty sketchy right now. Chipotle took a huge beat, which I'm not very surprised. I think they said the younger audience isn't going over there to eat anymore. And then we had a couple big beats and then a couple not so much. So very, very mixed in the markets in terms of the traditional stocks. So if you're making a little bit of money there, that's cool. We got a lot of ones in chat. Awesome. Do you think the alt move will be fast and take profits need to be set? Says Brandon. That's a very good question. We're kind of teetering right now on... Yeah. So, and I'll explain this more whenever I start breaking the 4-year cycles down. We're teetering on the point of a very long return. I'm not gonna say no return, but if we are holding alts, expect them to go even lower than their previous bear market low, honestly. So if Cardano went from 310 down to 25, back up to $1.10, and then expect it to go under that 25 cents, because $1.10, if we were to fall back another 70%, well, it'd be pretty close, but I think Cardano might have went to 50 cents, if I'm not mistaken, not 25. I could be wrong, but there's a lot of altcoins that are already pretty close to their previous bear market low. So what I would not be doing, and what I am not personally doing, is selling my altcoins. So there's a possibility the alts do drop another 60, 70% from here. But remember this, like a lot of those alts are already down 50%. So, and you don't have to be all in or all out or time everything perfect. Just remember, you are in crypto for different reasons. And if something's worth holding for a while, then I think you should continue to hold it. So I'm still holding my chain links and my Ondos and all those plays. Some of them I'm down on, and that's part of the play. So, do you believe in Plume? Duck, yes, I do. I think Plume is a solid project. Right now, it's very hard to determine what the big players are, because you determine the big players in bullish periods. In crypto, whenever Bitcoin goes down, everything goes down with it, no matter how good it is. So, for example, you have an Aster, which is absolutely crushing it. The fees are off the charts. They are doing a phenomenal job, but they just launched, about 42 days ago or something like that. And we don't have a very good understanding of what it looks like in a bear market for some of these plays, or a bull market rather. So Plume, it did launch, I think at the end of last year, if I'm not mistaken, and we didn't really have very many opportunities to see it thrive. Even though it's a solid project fundamentally, we need to see it in a bull market. So MP says 61 views and only 19 likes. Come on, hit those likes. I agree, look up there. Smash that like and hit subscribe. Follow on X and join Discord. The links are down below. Look, I'm out of town, but I'm still here to bring you guys to alpha. I did not forget about you guys. I do my best to stay with you guys and stay, help you stay educated, because nobody wants to be left alone in the dark. Nobody wants to feel alone. The only thing that feels worse than that is whenever you sell your bag, everybody else is happy they hodled, and you're the only one that's not celebrating. So if we're all holding our bag and we lose the money together, at least you got somebody with you doing the same thing. So that's what crypto is, Crypto 101. If everybody sold their bag to try to time the top and the bottom, Bitcoin would have died a long time ago. You need people like me who are going to diamond hand projects they believe in, and then you need to build communities around it. And that's what's so big about some of these smaller projects is we're finally going to see who has those real communities. Is Caspa going to be able to survive a bear market? So it went up to 22 cents. It came all the way down to a couple cents. Is it going to be able to survive that bear market? I personally think so, but who knows? Only time will tell. And those that held Bitcoin, they ended up getting rewarded. So it's Bitcoin. It's in its own little league, but I think there will be some others that are able to come out of the doldrums similar. Do you follow the stock ticker coin, says Josh? Not so much the stock ticker. If we try to compare Coinbase to a lot of these other exchanges, it's not even a top 10 globally in terms of trading activity. And then if we look at just like the base network, it's very much valued based off of like the Western vibes. Like Coinbase is so much the go-to exchange for reputability and, you know, KYC and those types of things. But I mean, crypto, honestly, at this point, especially with perp dexes and everything else, people don't want a KYC. Now, I will tell you with the centralized exchanges like Coinbase, they are starting to come out with these credit cards that are giving you like 4% back. It's pretty enticing. Crypto.com, shout out them. I am partnering with them soon, so cat's out of the bag. A lot of centralized exchanges, they have some good in them, but then also the perp dexes, and then what crypto was created for was allow me to get the fees and the yield. Let me provide to the liquidity pool, and me as a crypto holder be able to get the yield. So there's definitely going to be some room to grow there. But yeah, in terms of coin, like the ticker, the stock itself, I think it'll do well. I think it's going to overall just do well over time, as long as they keep creating products and allowing people to get 5% back on the USDC, allow people to swap fiat into crypto for free. There's a lot of good incentives there. So continue to hodl coin, not financial advice. That one's a security, and I don't want to get wrecked telling you what to do with it. This is just entertainment purposes only. Peace, Crux, and chat, says Carl. What up, Carl? Off the topic, love the zebra head. Oh yeah, that's Marty up there. He's just chilling. Marty just chilling up there. All right. I personally love Zebic and hold it. Yeah, Carl, I think Zebic protocol is a pretty solid play. You're looking at a traditional finance type play. You got your cool, I think they have debit cards and credit cards at this point, or maybe they're just prepaid debits. But that's what society knows. We know how to swipe a card, and the only difference is we're paying in crypto possibly. So it's pretty cool to see the advancements in this technology. Crux, where did you tuck the pup? Hey, good question, Keela. So Tux is back in El Paso with my grandma. He's a little bit over a year. He's like a year and 3 months, I believe. But yeah, he's making the cameos in every video. And I hope you guys are smashing the like for Pup Tux, because he's been crushing it. And I think he's helping me grow my channel. So all right, I like crypto.com, says Carl. I do too. Crypto.com has terrible future setup, super scammy, not a fan. I think, so I've been using crypto.com for like 4 years now. And what I like about them is they're first to the market in a lot of these plays. So if we look at like a Coinbase, they're probably going to have like maybe 100 different cryptos. Crypto.com is probably going to have at least like 200 or so. So they're quicker to the punch in a lot of these plays. And I don't know, I overall, I appreciate what they've done. How much do you know about VPay? I don't, Josh, unfortunately. All right, so I see a ton of you guys still viewing. We got 70 people in here. Let's break down some 4-year cycles. All right, let me go ahead and give my overall take on how I got into crypto this cycle. So last cycle, very profitable overall. If you didn't know, I turned 130K into $1.3 million in 6 months. So I got extremely blessed in my last bull market, and it was all about altcoins. So altcoin this, altcoin that. I held no Bitcoin. Well, I take that back. From October to November of 2020, I held Bitcoin. November of 2020, I swapped all of my Bitcoin into Ethereum, Cardano, Chainlink, blah, 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 blah. All these different altcoins. I even stayed away from XRP. So, I like for my very first cycle, I absolutely crushed it. Anyways, this bull market, you know, I played the 4-year cycle, my first one. I did well. This bull market, that's how I was able to get 90% of my buys sub 25K Bitcoin, is because I look at this thing called the 4-year cycle. And right now, what we don't want to admit is that altcoins have not came to play. Alt season is nowhere to be found. Bitcoin held up. It did its thing. It did an 8x from 15.5 to $126,000. But what happened to my alt bag? You know, so I have 0 Bitcoin. So me as an investor, I would have done much better off just buying Bitcoin this bull market. And I think, you know, hindsight's 2020. I still continue to, you know, pound the drums because I think there's better technologies out there like a Caspa and all these other ones. But again, I'm a fundamental analyst. I don't specifically look at price. And that's why I say as an investor, there were better moves to be made. Now, going into the next bull market, you know, let's say the top is in. Going into the next bull market as an investor, it would make sense to buy Bitcoin and more or less to stay away from the alts, because if something made a higher high in November of 2021 than it did this bull market, then why would I risk riding down through a bear market and then continuing to hold this thing and it's out of nowhere just going to make a new higher high? You know, I think the most recent trend is your best to go off of. And yeah, so that's something to consider going forward is how are you going to invest your money? And also 1 year from now, if you're not ready to buy the dip, then you should be taking profits at this point. So let's check some charts. That is amazing, Crux, says Carl. Yeah, thank you, brother. All right, so let's check some charts. Okay, so this is my first video here. This one dropped Monday. Our cycle's broken. It's like a 13, 14 minute long video, and I go over some very important details explaining the 4-year cycle. And then yesterday I dropped this one, cycles are over. So this is my bullish thesis. If the 4-year cycle is over, where does Bitcoin get? Not only this time next year, but also where do we get 4 years from today? Because if the 4-year cycle is broken, we could still use diminishing returns and diminishing losses. That is, you know, diminishing returns, diminishing losses is not part of the 4-year cycle. So that's something else to consider. The 4-year cycle, specifically Bitcoin's halving event every 4 years. Actually, technically it's 3 years, 10 months. That's whenever, or 210,000 Bitcoin, which takes roughly that amount of time. That's whenever the cycle event happens. This one I was going to drop tomorrow, but I went ahead and shifted this one to Monday. And in this very first video that I showed you guys, I said that I am 60-40. So, Crux, what does 60-40 mean? I think this is a good way to be able to gauge how bullish or bearish I currently am. So again, I dropped this almost a week ago, and I said, I've done this much analysis where I did 4 technical trends that have shifted. So a technical trend is something you can see in a chart. For example, Bitcoin got a new all-time high before the halving. That is a technical trend. You know, a fundamental trend, which I did 10 of these, I think have more of a weighting because, again, I'm a fundamental analyst. I think of in terms of fundamentals, but a fundamental shift would be ETFs were created in January of last year for Bitcoin, and we had the Ethereum one, and then we just got 3 new ones. We got Solana, Litecoin, and I forgot the third. Solana, Litecoin, and HBAR. So shout out all you guys. We have our 5 different ETFs currently. And then I talk about the regulations, I talk about the stable coins, I talk about the institutions and all these different fundamental changes. And we are at the most important time to be talking about this. And I knew I need to spend this entire week, not just creating these 3 videos, but also filling in this live stream, being able to answer y'all's questions because I know how scary stuff can get. Trust me, I bought 66,000 Cardano at $2.10, wrote it all the way down to 25 cents. So I've seen 6 figures vanish overnight. That is part of, you know, if you're in there and you're risking your portfolio, you have to be ready. And that's part of it. I made a video about it. I actually pinned it on my Twitter. So if you haven't seen it yet, I strongly recommend after this, you go check it out. But it's all about emotions. It's about prepping yourself. It's about being ready. It's about, honestly, sometimes it's zoning out, you know, the people that continuously refresh their crypto holdings and their portfolios. And those are the people that are probably going to get murked in this environment. So what I did last bull market was played video games. I know how dumb that sounds, but that's what got my mind away from crypto. Some people it's playing football, some people spending time with the kids. You have to find your way to get away from the charts and just let crypto do its thing because crypto's going to crypto. But ultimately, when we look at the 4-year cycle, this thing it doesn't care about all of the new stuff. It doesn't care about the Japan carry trade. It doesn't care about the tariffs. It doesn't care about any of it. It is on its own. It is completely time based. And that's something that I want to explain going on to my next segment. So, Crux, what are the 4-year cycles and how can I get ahead of this? So, this is the theory of the 4-year cycle. The year after Bitcoin's halving, you have a peak in Q4 of that year. So, for example, last year in June, Bitcoin had a halving event. So this year in Q4, you're going to have a peak. That is the theory. It's super simple. People make it very difficult. They start throwing all this random stuff. But let's go ahead and continue. There's 2 different ways that you can next break that down, right? So what people have determined is how many days from a bull market bottom it takes to get back to the next peak, which is, I believe it is, 35 months or 34 months. So it would be about 10 months or 3 years, 10 months to get from a bottom all the way back to the top. That is key point number 1. Key point number 2 is how long does it take to get from the halving event all the way to a peak? So that is roughly anywhere from about 520 to 550 days. As you can see, so this orange one here, it's right over my head. This is the peak here, but the halving is over there at that vertical line in the middle of my screen. So this one took about 530 days. The next one took about 550 days. And currently where we're sitting is about 560 days. But, going back to 126K, which was our October peak, that was about 535 days. So there's definitely, the 4-year cycle is in play in terms of we are Q4. We are at a peak in terms of October, and the only way we'll know is going into Q1, Q2 of next year and not getting a higher high. Those 2 key points have both hit in terms of how long it took from a bear market bottom all the way to the peak, and then also how long it took to go from the halving all the way to the peak. So that's the 4-year cycle kind of laid out every 4 years. This thing it's super accurate, but there's so many things that get in our way of just like, we want to know, like BlackRock, you are allowing everybody to buy IBIT. MicroStrategy, you have just accumulated 600,000 Bitcoin. Then you got Tesla, what are you doing with your Bitcoin? And you have all these bullish theses that are looking to break this thing. But what I determined in this very first video, let's see if I can get it right there, is who owns Bitcoin? That's the most important question. Whoever owns it is going to be the one that controls the price. And that's super important to note. So the miners, for example, are the ones that are accumulating it as of like the most recent. They're not going to be the people that are mining now are not going to be the ones that are holding the most Bitcoin. It's going to be the Satoshis of the world. It's all of the people that were in Bitcoin sub 2018 or before 2018. And now the institutions are getting involved. They just increased their bag from about 8% in November 2021 all the way to about 18% in, we're talking about the MicroStrategies, we're talking about the United States, China. So we're talking governments, treasuries, we're talking ETFs, everything involved. 18% owns the Bitcoin. And that's why I don't think right now the institutions are in control, because retail has all the Bitcoin. Retail has 65% of the Bitcoin. So whatever retail wants, they call the shots. And the institutions that are at their mercy. Right now, if Satoshi woke up, he could absolutely collapse Bitcoin. If some of these new wallets start waking up, and we've seen some of them wake up over the years, they control the flow of Bitcoin. So I'm not here to scare people or run them off. If these people wanted Bitcoin gone, it would have been gone by now. These people are probably just going to slightly take profits over time. They're giving you their hand every 4 years. Go ahead and sell while we sell, and then accumulate. I don't think they're going to continue to accumulate Bitcoin at these prices, but I think every 4 years they'll continue selling as it's continuing to go up, and they hold 65% of the supply. So that is simple economic supply demand. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on a little bit more, and I'll answer some of y'all's questions. I'm sure you guys have a ton of questions, and I got a good amount of viewers in here. So shout out all you guys. All right. So this is pretty important here. When I just talked about 3 years, 10 months, November 10th was the peak of last cycle. What is 3 years and 10 months from this? So ChatGPT, it calculates it October 10th, 2025. All right. So that means if Bitcoin's halving rhythm stays consistent with the 3 years, 10 months per full halving cycle, the next major inflection point or potential peak would align almost exactly with October 2025, which is where we're currently at, which is eerily close to Bitcoin's recent all-time high in October 6, 2025. So I've been messing around a little bit with the AI and trying to find these patterns, but I mean, the 4 year cycle, it seems undefeated at this point. But also remember, so this is saying October 10th, right? You can see it up there. October 6th is whenever the major shakeout happened. So the Trump insider, the Trump tariff tweets, all that stuff happened on, it was like, was it, I forgot the exact date actually. Anyways, so a lot of people knew that the price is going to be a specific around the all-time high, so they're going to take profits along the way. So I'm not going to tie this too heavily into the Trump, the insider, and all that stuff. But I mean, it seems pretty manipulated in terms of what kind of price action can happen. FTX happened at the peak of the last bull market. We had this major liquidation event, which does not happen in bull markets. Could have been what the peak was. It was definitely after that. So the liquidation event happened well after the 126K all-time high, but we were still pushing back up to about 115K, and then that happened. And out of nowhere, Bitcoin was sitting at like 102,000 for like a wick, and then came back up. But yeah, smart money is very smart, and they know how to get ahead of this stuff. So it doesn't just miraculously happen. That event happened for a reason, and it's according to the 4 year cycle. So what we're going to do next, after I do another round of Q&A, is we're going to go through some of these indicators, because I think these are important, especially explaining how they partake in what you can do next to make money or save yourself some money. These are like what indicators are out there to try to get you to time the top perfectly, because we all want to make money, right? So even if you're not going to use these, it's good to learn about them. And I'll teach you guys those after another round of questions. So let's see what we got here. Excuse me. I don't even look at my portfolio, says Mike, whenever it dumps. I agree. I have not refreshed my portfolio in weeks. Stay informed, guys. Stay educated, but you don't have to continuously, refresh your portfolio to do so. And also, this is my new, last cycle I was a gamer. This cycle I am an educator. So all of this content that I'm making, I'm so busy that I don't have time to worry about stuff. And I strongly encourage you guys to do the same. If you focus on getting the bag, if you're working at Whataburger and In-N-Out, double shifts, every dollar you make is $10. You just need to put it into Bitcoin in Q4 of next year. And that's how I'm thinking. I'm already one cycle ahead. Just think next cycle, 2026, what am I doing? 2027, what am I doing? All the way up to 2029, when I think Bitcoin could be, $500,000, depending on what happens this year. So something else to consider. Let's check some more questions. Crux, what's your prediction for November for altcoins? Says Dimitri. It's all about the 4 year cycle, man. So something to consider is just because Bitcoin starts dumping into a bear market doesn't mean your altcoin's going to bleed against Bitcoin all through the bear market. And I strongly encourage you guys to do a little analysis on Bitcoin dominance within a bear market. So as of once you go into euphoric moments, at least in this past bull market, we didn't have those crazy alt seasons. So the Bitcoin dominance only went down to 55. In previous bull markets, they went to 30. That is where alt seasons happened. We had parabolic blow off tops. We never had one of those this entire bull market. So that's definitely a fundamental shift that I talked about in that first video, that changed drastically was what an alt season is. And going into next bull market, would I be holding alts as heavily? And the answer is no. What the last cycle showed me is going to be the strongest cycle of all the cycles, and altcoins just did not play this bull market. I'll still hold some altcoins, but I'll have more Bitcoin, if anything. So that's very important. You don't have to hold the altcoins to make money. That's going to be rule number one. And then with altcoins, if we break the 4-year cycle and we do get a new high this year, passing 126, expect altcoins to absolutely send. But what I would wait for is Bitcoin getting through 126, going past it, coming back, retesting it, and then breaking a new high and sending. Whatever Bitcoin stops, if it goes to 130, 140, wherever, expect a consolidation event, and then that's probably when alt season's going to happen. So we're not just miraculously going to leave like this moment with just some crazy alt season out of nowhere. That's not going to happen. But I think alts could recover significantly faster in the meanwhile. Like if Bitcoin started pumping, like 4% today, I think alts would definitely outpace it. But in terms of an alt season, I don't see any of that happening until the 4-year cycle has confirmed to be broke. And right now, I am about 40% confident that the cycle is broken. I'm 60% confident, so I'm slightly leaning towards the peak is in. So again, I'm somebody who does a ton of analysis. I don't stay set in my ways. I constantly may fluctuate, but I think that's okay. I can take in new information. But like I said, the people that looked out the furthest in crypto do the best, and the people that made the most in crypto are the people that forgot the keys to their wallet. So this tells me the hodlers do the best. The people that don't get emotional and try to time the top and bottom usually do the worst. So something else to consider. Crux, do you think Bitcoin has topped already? I rotated my Bitcoin gains into large cap alts already. Thoughts? Ricky, basically what you're doing, if you're rotating your Bitcoin into altcoins, is you're expecting the cycle to not be over. Though I did just say from here, let's just say we dump from here to about $40,000 Bitcoin, which again, that's like a worst case scenario I could see. And the reason I keep saying 40K is diminishing losses. So in 2013, you had an 87% loss. 2014, 2018, you had a 83% loss. 2022, we had a 76% loss. And then what I've done in this most recent video is I've calculated the diminishing losses, and it puts us between a 68% loss and a 72% loss. So I say about 70% drop fallback from 126K, which puts us anywhere around 42K to 38K. So I just say 40K. And that's just off of diminishing losses in accordance with the 4-year cycles. Now, something that's kind of sketchy as well is you also have diminishing returns. So we had an 8x from 15.5 all the way up to 126K. That means most likely we'll have like a 5x from the bear market low. So if I do a 5x times 40K, that would put us at $200,000 by 2029. So I think a lot of people will be a little upset with a Bitcoin that gets to 200K in the next 4 years. But that's diminishing losses, diminishing returns. So you went from 126K this bull market up to, only 200K. That's going to be pretty disappointing. Now, what this tells me is Bitcoin does not have a lot of time to be able to break the cycles. If we go into one more cycle, that's it. That is the last leg. If Bitcoin goes into 2029 is not able to break that cycle, it's going to get too expensive to mine. Just like I said, Bitcoin gets to 200K with the diminishing returns and the diminishing losses. But what happens to the miners? Because right now it costs about $70,000 on average globally to mine a Bitcoin. So in 2029, actually in 2028, technically with the 4-year cycles, at that point, it's going to cost $140,000 to mine. So your high was 200K, mining is 140K, so you have a 60K buffer. But then If you go into another 4-year cycle, we're going to retrace what? Maybe like 60%. And then at that point, you're going to be way down against the miners. Bitcoin has to figure it out, within one more cycle. And, if it doesn't, crypto's not going to look well. And again, not to scare you guys, if Bitcoin doesn't thrive, I think crypto itself has a beautiful future in terms of tokenization. There's a lot more going on than just Bitcoin, but this is me as an analyst. I study this stuff and I figure out, how do I get ahead and make money with this stuff? So if you've learned anything, make sure you smash that like, hit subscribe, follow on X, and join Discord. I see it up there, Trade Intuition. Make sure to follow on all of my socials, and I appreciate it. All right. Let's see. Dimitri says, thanks. Yeah, you're welcome. In 2021, Bitcoin topped in November, and alt still ran up until 2022. April. That is not true, Ricky. Oh, okay. So certain alts kind of did. Right. I'll give you a little bit of credit for that one, but the real blow off top, it didn't happen in 2021. It happened in 2017. So 2017, Bitcoin peaked in like this. 2017 was December, if I'm not mistaken, or the last two were Novembers. So it peaked in November, but then the alts rallied into Q1 of 2018. This last bull market, Bitcoin peaked at like 69K, and then it went all the way down to 15.5. The alts did not make all-time highs in 2022, but the dominance actually went up in the bear market as Bitcoin bled to alts. So that's why I'm saying right now, if you're holding a lot of altcoins, you most likely, if Bitcoin goes from 126K all the way down to 40K, your altcoin is going to fall just as much. The only difference is your altcoin has already bled against Bitcoin. So at this point, it's not really worth selling your altcoins for Bitcoin because the dominance is probably going to be pretty similar a year from today. And again, I definitely encourage you guys, go study Bitcoin dominance within bear markets. And it's not as drastic of a change as people think because, for the most part, the alts bleed first, which they already have, and then Bitcoin bleeds next. So Bitcoin will probably catch up to a lot of your alts. All right. Moonvember says JSOM. Well, Moonvember is a thing. Let's actually study a little bit of this monthly returns, and then we'll jump back into some of these indicators. So we'll go Bitcoin monthly. I'm hoping I got the right website. Here we are. I think I have to put a returns on this. Bitcoin monthly. Used to just, oh, there it is. I just lost it. Here we are. This is one of my favorite websites to use. And I want to show you two things on here. So you just talked about Moonvember, if it wants to load for me. Come on. All right. As you can see, November is by far the most bullish month in crypto. October is the third most bullish. So we don't say Uptober for no reason. October has been a phenomenal month, but consider 3 years, excuse me, right. So 3 years, 10 months is the 4-year cycle. So it's technically not four years. And we're getting to the point where Octobers are supposed to be the peak, like September, October range. So that's definitely something to consider. And then also, of all of the, let's see if I can find, I don't know if it's going to let me. Right. I mean, this one works, this chart here. So as you can see, all of these Octobers, we only had 4 red ones. But if you look at 2018, where there was our last red October, it was followed by a 36.5% pullback in November, followed by another 8% here in December. And then we got a little bit of a relief rally in January, followed by almost 18% in February into March. So not to scare you, but we rarely have a red October, but when we do, it is nasty. So if you're not prepared for a bear winter, take some profits, put some to the side, and then get back to work. Accumulate, I call it fiat mining, get to work, Every dollar you make, think of it as $10. You just have to time it perfectly, which is going to be Q4 next year. Just like it's happened, it'll be, if we go into a bear market, 4 out of 4 times. It cannot get any easier. This time next year, Bitcoin hits 40K. All of that money you saved up, you just dump it. You don't have to DCA or do anything fancy. You just bulk buy, which is exactly what I did. 90% of my portfolio sub 25K Bitcoin. I didn't time it perfectly. I didn't get 15.5, but I got some good buys on some alts, and I'm okay. Now, not everybody's in my situation. Again, I study this stuff. I live this stuff. I teach this stuff. But you will get to where I'm at one day, as long as you continue to educate yourself and understand, you got to surround yourself with a lot of bright minds. Think of the people in the comments that are learning with you. I'm learning. We're all learning. Next cycle, I'll be able to teach charting. So this cycle, I talk so much about, different projects, this white paper, that white paper. I still have a lot to grow in terms of being a content creator, being able to draw patterns on charts. To me, it's not the most important thing. The most important thing by far is the fundamentals. But eventually, once Bitcoin breaks its 4-year cycle, at that point, as a trader, you will be able to do much better. And then, of course, there's some traders out there that do well. I'm not saying trading doesn't work, but as of a 4-year cycle, which is a time-based metric, this is always going to be much better than trying to do short-term, in the long run. So unless you join our VIP trading group, I'll tell you, those guys, they crush it. They do much better than I would. So, all right. So I just showed you guys the Bitcoin monthly returns, and I showed you why Moonvember is a thing and October is a thing. Let's go ahead and check out what is telling us the peak is in. And I'll tell you, it is nothing other than those 3 things that I told you. Remember, one is at the year after Bitcoin's halving, we get a peak, which is Q4 this year. Boom. The 2 key points was, what was it? 3 years, 10 months after a bottom hits the peak. That's key point 1. Key point 2 is how many days? Give me one sec. It is 520 to 550 days after each halving. Those are the 3 most important. And then we go into these. You got the pi cycle indicator, which is going to be, of all your technical indicators, is going to be your best one. So moving averages, this is something traders have been trying to nail, is how do we beat the 4-year cycle to be even more effective? And there hasn't been a way. There's nothing that beats the theory of Q4 the year after Bitcoin's having to beat a peak. And no matter how many cool things you throw on charts or try to do all this fancy stuff, all of it pales in comparison. Because at this point, it's 3 for 3. It's about to be 4 for 4. And then all of these moving averages that are trying to figure it out, the pi cycle indicator was able to do 3, which is the 350-day moving average times 2 when it crosses the 111-day moving average. But it already started cracking last cycle right here in May. So May of 2021 is whenever it crossed. So when I say 3 of 3, I consider the first peak of 2021's bull market to be the accuracy of this thing. So honestly, it went into November for the true peak. So we could technically say this thing is 2 for 3, but some people will consider the first peak being the peak. And after that, we're not even close. If you look at where we're at currently, these things are far from crossing. And there's only about a 52% probability that this one is in. So that's something to consider. Moving averages, they usually work well for like near-term trading. But in terms of like the 4-year cycle, that's the best you're going to get, is something that's 54% accurate. There's no other moving averages you can put together that's going to have more accuracy for determining the top and bottoms of crypto markets than the pi cycle. Next up, we have the NUPL, which is the net unrealized profits. This one's fairly important. Well, yeah, this one's pretty important as well. So the NUPL is the profit versus losses compared to when coins last moved. This is very important because it's determining who the new movers are. And again, this one is pretty far from, I mean, 79% on here is going to be the closest. I mean, you have an 85% over there on the 2-year moving average, but yeah. And then, so the RODL is going to be who is hodling in comparison to the who's been buying Bitcoin from 1 week old all the way compared to those who've been holding for at least a year. So it's comparing your new term holders to the OGs, which is very important because, again, when retail comes flooding in, they're the ones who are exit liquidity. So that's the RODL. You have the Puel multiple. This one's okay as well. The Puel multiple is, it compares like the miner's daily earnings to the yearly average. So miners at this point, I don't think have a lot of control over Bitcoin's price. This is something that within the first 2 cycles, this one's going to be a lot stronger. The miners nowadays, we have 93% of Bitcoin that's already in circulation. So as much as I like the miners and stuff like that, they're not getting the bulk of it. We just said 65% of Bitcoin's held by retail. 18% is held by governments, institutions, and everyone else. So the miners, you have a little bit of impact left, but going back to even the net unrealized profit loss, that's going to be your miners right there. Those are going to be the guys who've been mining since 2009 that are going to be continuously dumping on us every 4 years. So I think these guys are slowly liquidating their positions. Eventually that's 65% of retail, now 60% owns, and then eventually 55%, and then 50% of the Bitcoin's owned by retail. And governments, treasuries, institutions, they're all the ones buying the stuff. So that's something to consider. Over time, you're going to start losing that liquidity to the big players in the world. And that's just part of it. And the people that were early are the ones that get rewarded. And I'm here to tell you, you are all early. So don't think that Bitcoin has already done its thing. There's a lot of time, like if this is the new monetary system, there's a lot of time to still make a lot of money from this thing. And we're looking at multiple 7 figures per Bitcoin. So your job is to accumulate just one. All you need is 1 Bitcoin. And that's very difficult, but remember, if you're blessed with the opportunity to get another $40,000 Bitcoin, it is possible. All you have to do is start working your butt off over the next year. Every dollar you make is worth $10. And at that point, you just have to save, let's just say, yeah. So you just have to save some money. Make sure you put it into Bitcoin when it is low. So don't continue buying at these prices. Right now, Bitcoin just went from 15.5 to 126. We could probably wait for this thing to cool off and play the longer game. And let's go ahead and move over these last 2. So the 2-year moving average is fairly important. This is just going to be like it's more or less for your long-term investors. But if you look at this chart, and I'll open this one quickly and kind of go through it. This had like 3 really great opportunities to buy. And most importantly, like you see this little green zone up here, this is all whenever Bitcoin was sub 30K. So this is more or less where I was buying all this sub 30K all the way down to, the 15.5. But after it crossed back over 30K, you are not buying. And if you follow this thing, every bear market, you have a good little window to buy. This is a very important one that you want to pay attention to, because when this thing starts triggering green in a year from now, you're going to see a price around that 40K and it's telling you to buy. And everyone's scared. CNN, Fox, everybody's telling you, stay away, it was a scam. That's the time that makes legends. Bear markets make you rich. Bull markets make you wealthy. We're trying to get rich. We need to prepare for the bear market. And lastly, let's go over this last one and we'll be done. So the Bitcoin tra-la-la, this one's it's kind of interesting. It's, your rainbow chart. It's kind of funny, but this one's more or less like a sentiment driven one, and it tries to break it down as simple as easy and when to get exposure. Now, to the upside, it doesn't make much sense anymore, because in these first couple bull markets, it got up to the red, which was bubble territory. That's when you should 100% be selling. The last bull market, we got into the orange, which is FOMO intensifying. This bull market, we only got into the accumulate and the still cheap prices. So we didn't even get into the hodl part, right? So this to the upside has proven to not work. But if we would have followed it in the purple area, which is the accumulation zone, this is telling us to buy at 25K and 16K. So I would encourage you, the 2-year moving average, and then this rainbow chart here, which is also known as a tra-la-la chart, use those for your accumulation periods, or you can just make it super simple. October of next year, bulk buy all this money you saved You don't have to YOLO it all in one go, but maybe buy like 33% in October, 33% in November, and then 33% of December of 2026, and then you're done. And you can just have fun the rest of the cycle. You can go play your video games. You can do whatever you want, and you can make a lot of money tuning yourself out, not listening to the carry trade that Japan had, not listening to the tariffs that Trump's talking about. You can make a ton of money. And if you want to have a hobby of trading, that's okay. So with a small portion of your bag, you can try to long and short markets, try to have fun. Even if you're losing money, as long as you're not aping your portfolio and selling it every time we have a bearish event, you will be fine. So that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to teach you, educate you, and we'll answer a couple questions, and then we'll go ahead and conclude this live stream. Carl says, I think November will be good. Annoyingly charming is saying down big time. So we have some mixed results in here. Let's check the poll. So is the peak of this cycle in? 70% of you say no. So that's very interesting. And again, I don't have a strong conviction that the peak is in. I'm about 60% certain that the peak is in. Within, let's just say money market funds start pushing into crypto and gold. If gold starts collapsing to a 20 trillion market cap, if the interest rates finally start finding its way into the risk on assets, I'm okay with shifting back to 50-50. And that can happen in a matter of weeks. So I'm not like per se stuck in this mindset, but as of now, I'm about 60-40 towards the peak being in. I suspect Bitcoin will recover quite a bit this weekend. Yeah, I agree, Dimitri. So market makers picked up most of the Bitcoin long liquidity. There's a lot of liquidity sitting around 112,000, and there's more above 116 to 117. Could be, very much so. So even the traders, I don't think are controlling the way that this all, most of the price action per se. So the hodlers, the whales with those dormant wallets, like every now and then you'll see some like article pop up, whale from 2012 for the first time moved some Bitcoin. Those guys they control the markets, whatever they want to happen. It's not these even like the insider. So the insider of that event, yes, it was huge, but mainly because it was a trading liquidation event. It was a cascade of stuff happening. It wasn't just some one person coming in and just setting the price to zero. Like crypto's on steroids in terms of how much is invested compared to what is actually, being traded as leverage longs and shorts. And I'm pretty sure about 70%, if I'm not mistaken, of what's invested in crypto is actually futures trading. So it's something to consider, y'all, is there's a lot of degens in this space, and anything that happens is magnified. It's not just one-for-one spot trading stuff. This is people with 50x longs and shorts getting smoked. And then what happens after that? It cascades. So that's just crypto markets 101. Everybody with the high, not so much gambling habits, but people that are risk adverse. I'm pretty sure risk adverse means those that take risk. Those are the ones that are in crypto. 60% long-term, 30% trading, 5% leverage, 5% meme. I like it, MP. So 60% long-term. I'm sure most of that's in like Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. 30% trading. That's probably going to be in your altcoins like a Ondo or, some of these other ones. 5% leverage. I mean, that could be in anything, honestly. You can leverage trade any coins. And then 5% memes. Shout out all you memes, you gem hunters out there. I love you. You guys are part of the process, and we don't need stinking global revolutionary technologies to invest in. If we can find communities like SPX 6900, like Toshi, these are projects that held up better than most of your blue caps, or your blue chips rather, and your large caps, which just goes to show, everyone's in crypto for a different purpose. And I think there's a lot of gem hunters, a lot of memers out there that are finding their space, their space to finally start thriving in. So I think this is more of a new age, new generation type appeal with the GME saga and what all happened there with AMC. But I'm here for it. I got some of all those bags, and I actually like it. So it's just higher risk, and that's important to understand. Ricky says, so do you think the cycle is over or buying opportunity right now? So I think it's the opposite of a buying opportunity. What I'm doing is I'm saving every single dollar I make, in my mind, putting a 10x on that dollar, and I'm going to buy Bitcoin at 40K. That is ingrained in my mind right now. And if it doesn't happen, I have all of my crypto that I'm currently sitting on. We're talking multiple six figures that is probably going to do very well. So I'm willing to ride. I'm willing to round trip this if I have to. But that's something important to note is just, yeah, I have a plan in case I have to. I will make it back. And crypto is always relative to yourself. You should take it personal. If the markets take your money, you got to figure out a way to get that money back. And it doesn't have to be today or tomorrow, but a for sure method is accumulating Bitcoin in a bear market. That's unproven, or that is the most proven method. And everything else is less proven against that. A lot of retail are leveraging instead of buying spot. Yeah, retail's getting smoked. They are absolutely getting wiped. And just be careful. If this is your first bull market, you should not be leverage trading like that. If this is your first bull market, you need to understand what it feels like to lose just spot trading prices. If this is your first time holding crypto and you see Bitcoin go down 10% in a single weekend, what's that mean to you? Because if you watch your gold bags do that, or if you watched your S&P 500 do that, you're probably going to start freaking out. So the very first cycle is all about emotions. The next cycle, you can start having some fun. Don't leverage trade your big bags, your portfolio. Set some money aside and leverage trade with that. And that should be your, I'm having fun, or this is a hobby, or that maybe it's even a job. But don't use that as your main portfolio investment, because that is not smart. Ricky says, damn, so you think the cycle is over? With 60% probability, I think the cycle's over. With 40% probability, I think it's going to continue up and right. Dimitri says, maybe buying opportunity for alts in the short term, but risky. Yeah, at this point, I think the risk to reward of buying alts it's not there yet. For me, it's not. The alts are very close to their bear market lows, which is fair. I'm definitely not buying Bitcoin at these prices. If I'm buying anything, it is alts. Alts have already bled out to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has a lot more to bleed out if it's going to go into a bear market. So I'm not going to buy Bitcoin at these prices. I would buy some alts like an Aster. Aster just got smoked today. You have a ton of good buying opportunities right now. I think Virtuals was down like 13% today. You got some very solid plays. And keep in mind, the only reason these are down is because Bitcoin is down. So people say, oh, that's a scam, or that's not a good project, or that, this, that, the third. If Bitcoin was pumping, all of those would be outperforming Bitcoin. So these are, just think of all these alts as leveraged positions to Bitcoin. So that's something to consider. Now, that's more or less, well, it's starting to change a little bit. I will say that, because if we look at like most of the cycle, Bitcoin would go, we would start to get a little alt season, and then it gets stifled. And I feel like a lot of that was manipulation. If we saw how many times Trump stifled alt seasons, like Trump stifled at least 3 alt seasons where everything's cool, and then out of nowhere he just says something crazy. And to me, it's like, I don't know, it's clearly manipulated. Even the October 10th event. So was it the 9th into the 10th? I believe it was. Yeah, I have to go back and check on here. Let's hang on. We might be piecing something together here, y'all. Let's go back to this screenshot. I don't know where it was. Yeah, I don't know where I put it. Okay, here we are. Boom. All right. So I said 3 years, 10 months after November 10th, which was the last cycle's peak. It puts us at October 10th. If October 10th was that liquidation event, this is absolutely insane. I don't know if it is, but, and I'm pretty sure it is, like October 9th was whenever Trump talked about the first tweet of like, I'm thinking about putting something on China, blah, 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 blah. October 10th is whenever the huge event happens. So if it is this to the day, it just said 3 years, 10 months, That's all you got to do. Forget all those moving averages, forget all those fancy charts, forget all that stuff. It is time based and it makes sense. Why would a 4-year cycle be based off of moving averages? It makes no sense. Like moving averages is price. 4-year cycle is time. So these are two completely different metrics. But traders, that's all they know is charts and candles and this and that and trying to find trends and blah, 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 trying to beat everybody. It's not that complicated, guys. It is Bitcoin's 4-year cycle event. 210,000 Bitcoin is technology. It's in accordance with Moore's law. Every 2 years, the capacity of semiconductors and transistors doubles. So that is in accordance with Moore's law. Satoshi did not say that. That's analysts like myself speculating that. And I think there's a lot of merit behind it. I think Moore's law is what brought us to this point. And I will say that AI is starting to break it a little bit because AI is advancing the hardware much faster than what Bitcoin or blockchains would have. But maybe Moore's, maybe even this AI surge had Moore's law incorporated in it. And again, it's all about the hardware in terms of mining capacity, which is very important in terms of what Bitcoin is in its 30,000 nodes globally. So I just said a lot, and I think you guys are enjoying it. I see 55 of you guys still in here. I mean, it's pretty solid for a bearish day. I know I might have scared a lot of you guys here, but this is probably the most important live stream that you're going to see. Remember, I've given you the bull case, I've given you the bear case, I've given you my case, and I've helped you establish your case. And if you haven't seen my video I dropped on Monday all about the 4-year cycles, if you haven't seen the video I dropped on Wednesday about if it's bullish, that's my thesis. And then on Monday, be on the lookout for my bearish thesis. So you are well prepared no matter what happens. And that's the best I can do for you. It's the best. So I appreciate all you guys believing in us, myself, Tim Shrum. We are absolutely crushing it to bring you guys more content. We have a dope VIP trading group that's crushing it, even if the markets are going down. We have an academy to teach you how to build the perfect portfolio, how to trade. We have a gem hunting group over here where we are finding those low cap gems even during bearish periods. So that's kind of what we're doing here is we're creating a community. And this is pretty fast growing. I think Tim's channel's sitting about 60,000 subscribers. So I remember just like yesterday where I'll be waking up at 8 a.m. with T-Stream to stream and bring you guys in. And just the evolution, the growth, man, like this is my first year streaming. And during some of these streams, I have well over 100 people in here, and there's channels that have been out for multiple cycles with, quadruple, maybe like 15,000 subscribers. I can't even pull that. So I'm up and coming. I feel like I'm the future of crypto, and you guys are giving me the confidence that I'm not backing down. This is my space. This is my vision, and I owe it all to you guys. So Be Willed, last question. You said, got here late, is Crux selling? The answer is no, I am not selling. I'm hodling. And if I got a round trip, it is what it is. So appreciate you guys. Much love, much respect from Texas. I'll catch you guys on the flip side.